Death jab, profiteer Bill Gates is at it again. This time he's doing something, trying to stealthily promote the pandemic treaty, the World Health Organization's attempt, and very likely successful attempt, to usurp our own sovereignty as well as the sovereignty of every nation in the world. And Bill Gates is leading the charge. He didn't even have to mention the pandemic treaty in a recent article that he posted over at the New York Times titled, "We must fight pandemics like we fight fires." And it's just so two quick notes before I get into this article. Number one, we often think of Bill Gates as a geek, as a eugenicist, as a globalist, as a depopulationist. He's just a really bad guy. But at the end of the day, his skill, his superpower is not in technology. It's definitely not in healthcare. His skill is as a salesman. He's a salesman. And right now he's trying to sell the idea of the pandemic treaty of granting wide sweeping powers to the World Health Organization over us. Number two, and this is such an important takeaway, he really does truly legitimately believe that we're all stupid. I mean, he thinks that we are dumb. Reading this article, it was like, okay, I'm going to try to write an article that people can understand. So I'm going to write it at about a first grade level. Okay. So here's a picture. Here's a picture of a fire helmet. Okay. But you'll notice it's got vaccine vials on it. Okay. That's because it's a vaccine. That's because we're making a comparison between firefighting and stopping pandemics. Okay, are you with me? Are you with me there, people? Try to keep up. I mean, this guy, he just thinks we're idiots. I'm going to read from the story. I can't, because this is a story from the New York Times, I actually can't share the screen because it's a paid, I would be, breaking their paywall concept. So we're going to stick with this tweet by Liz Churchill with a screenshot of the article that Gates himself had tweeted. She said, Liz Churchill said, "We're not stupid, Bill." We're not. I'm sorry, but we're not. We all know that you're lighting the fires and posing as the savior with solutions to put them out. We must fight pandemics the way we fight fires, Bill Gates' latest New York Times article. I'm going to read a couple of parts of this. Not much because, I can't. I mean, look, I can usually read pretty much anybody's writings, but not this guy. This guy, and I'm sure he didn't even write it. I'm sure he had somebody else write it, and he went through and edited it and tried to dumb it down for us common folks, Okay, I'm not kidding. This is directly from the article. Try to imagine there's a small fire in your kitchen. Your fire alarm goes off, warning everyone nearby about the danger. Someone calls 911. We try to put the fire out. You try to put the fire out yourself. Maybe you even have a fire extinguisher under the sink. If that doesn't work, you know how to safely evacuate. By the time you get outside, the fire truck is already pulling up. Firefighters use the hydrant in front of your house to extinguish the flames before any of your neighbors' homes are ever at risk of catching fire. We need to prepare to fight disease outbreaks just as we prepare to fight fires. If it is left to burn out of control, a fire poses a threat not only to one home, but to an entire community. The same is true for infectious diseases, except on a much bigger scale. As we know all too well from COVID, an outbreak in one town can quickly spread across an entire country and then around the world. It's funny that I'm stuffed up today. It actually plays very well in my my really bad Bill Gates impersonation. It get closer to Bill Gates with my nasal voice than when I'm not so stuffed up. Anyway, point is that I'm going to skip ahead, okay? And I'm not going to make you listen to the article. I definitely don't want you to read the article, but I'm going to hit on a few key points here. What he's trying to say is that we need the World Health Organization to be controlling as much as possible. And the second point that he's making is that it's up to the wealthier nations, which is the United States, because he's not going to be asking China to contribute much. They just help him manage the World Health Organization. They don't actually contribute very much. His foundation contributes more than China, believe it or not. Of course, we contribute more because Joe Biden put us back in there for whatever reason, which I have argued is the whole reason that he's there in the first place in the White House, and that's why they pushed for him to be installed instead of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump had pulled us out of the World Health Organization. But that's for a topic for another time. Let's stay focused on this. Number one, we need the World Health Organization to control everything, according to Bill Gates. Number two, we need the wealthy country to fund it for everybody else. And everybody needs to be coordinated in every nation. And he's very clear about this. Every nation needs to participate. And he's equating it to fire because it's funny because it's actually a really poor analogy. I mean, it's, fire, you don't see, like if a fire breaks out, he's trying to say if fire breaks out at a home and then the firefighters come and prevent it from spreading to other homes. But they push it for the World Health Organization is not as firefighters. What they're basically saying is there's firefighters, they want to put pandemic firefighters essentially in everybody's homes. And then once there's a pandemic in one home, they all come out and start fighting fires everywhere, like covering it's a really poor analogy. But like I said, he probably went over a few different options and thought, nope, the people are too stupid for that one. They're too stupid for that one. They know firefighters. Kids love firefighters. Okay, first graders, they love firefighters. So let's do an analogy about firefighters to try to dumb it down to the level of the common people. This guy. Let me go back to the article a bit. There was okay, and this is, pay attention. I'm not going to read this in Bill Gates' voice, but he's pushing. And keep in mind, he does not mention the pandemic treaty at all in here. He keeps pushing for the Global Health Emergency Corps, which is his basically his portion of the organization within the organization that would actually handle the emergency. So think of it like well, you get the idea. I mean, it's if there's a pandemic or an epidemic, then the Bill Gates funded and controlled, let's be clear about that, the Bill Gates funded and controlled Global Health Emergency Corps within the World Health Organization would be the first line of defense. They'd be the ones that respond to it. Okay. I'm optimistic. Wait, no, so let's skip that paragraph. Again, I'm trying to minimize how much you actually have to hear Bill Gates' words. One of the Corps' most important jobs will be to take quick action to stop the spread of a pathogen. The speed of action requires countries to have large-scale testing capabilities that identify potential threats early. Environmental surveillance, like sewage testing. Why does it always come back to crap? Seriously. Like sewage testing is key, since many pathogens show up in human waste. If a sewage sample comes back positive, a rapid response team would deploy to the affected area to find people who might be infected, implement a response plan, and kick off the necessary community education about what to look for and how to stay protected. This is so super key. He says that it's what did he say? Testing is key. Sewage testing is key. It is. It's key for them. And I want to explain why. The reason that sewage testing is supposed to be the end-all be-all, this is what they're all pushing for, is twofold. Number one, it's because they know that nobody else is going to do it. Nobody's going to check their work. Nobody's going to be like, okay, well, let's go down in the sewers and collect some feces and check those samples out. They're not going to do that. Nobody else is going to do that. So whatever they say goes. If they say, we found an outbreak here, in Orange County, California, we found an outbreak. We checked the sewage and there is an outbreak, so we're calling for a complete lockdown of the entire area. I'm not kidding. So, which brings me, that's number two, is that basically they have blanket control over where they can lock people down. And if you think, oh my gosh, it can't be that conspiratorial. Folks, it is, because there are a dozen far better ways to be able to track pathogens than through sewage collection, taking people's crap and testing it. I mean, there are so many much better ways, much easier ways, much more cost-effective ways, much more accurate ways. I mean, this is literally, it's the worst case scenario. It's like, well, if we can't do anything else, let's take this extremely expensive and difficult and not very accurate way, and let's promote that as the best way. Come on. Come on. I mean, as bad as the PCR tests were, they were more accurate than fecal testing. And again, this is about an area. They don't want to know an individual. They want to be able to blanket areas. They want to be able to say, this area is infected because we declare it is. Nobody's going to check to see if it really is or not. So it's our word is what's key. Okay. Thank you for being a compliant member of the new society or whatever they're going to call it. To be successful, the emergency corps must build on existing networks of experts and be led by people like the heads of national public health agencies and their leads for epidemic responses. It's people like the heads of these national public health agencies that will be under the control of the World Health Organization once the pandemic treaty is fully signed. Just to be clear, it's difficult for any one country to stop a disease from spreading on its own. No, it's not. Let's be clear. No, it's not. But whatever. Many of the most meaningful actions require coordination from the highest level of government. Oh, of course. Well, we got to just give over all powers. All powers need to go to the World Health Organization. Again, I'm trying to translate Bill Gates's sales pitch into what he's really asking for. The world needs to prepare for a multi-alarm fire, because that happens all the time. Okay. Prior to COVID-19, do you think anybody was sitting there thinking, I wonder when the next pandemic will be? The type of fire response that requires different units and departments. These kinds of blazes are rare, but when they happen, there's no time to waste. Local responders need to know they can count on a surge of well-trained firefighters who will work seamlessly together. They can't arrive on the scene only to discover that their hoses don't fit on the closest hydrant, or they have a completely different approach from the other units. This guy. How to sell a concept to idiots, to first graders. The Emergency Corps will make sure countries and health systems are coordinated in advance of an emergency so that everything runs smoothly during times of crisis. Sort of like Windows NT. Anyway, this is where practice makes perfect. By running drills and simulations, the Corps will uncover the areas where countries and leaders are not ready and help us fix them now. It's important to practice for lots of different types of pathogens, too. Human respiratory diseases are a huge concern because they can go global so quickly. But they are far from the only threat. What if the next pandemic potential pathogen spreads through surface droplets, or if it is sexually transmitted like HIV or monkeypox? Just throw that out there. What is the result of bioterrorism? Oh, fear, fear, fear. Folks, without Bill Gates protecting you, we're all just going to die. Each scenario requires a different response, and the Emergency Corps can help the world get ready for all of them. We can't afford to get caught flat-footed again. The world must take action now to make sure COVID-19 becomes the last pandemic, and one of the biggest moves we can make is to support the world's principal health experts, the WHO, and invest in the Global Emergency Health Corps so it can live up to its full potential. Now, by this time, I mean, some of the people, I'm sure there's probably people out there that are like, oh my gosh, where do I send my check? Well, don't worry. It's being collected from you in the form of taxes. This will require two things. Number one, first, public health leaders, that's Freudian slip. First, public health leaders from all countries need to participate. The next pandemic could emerge anywhere, and so the Emergency Corps must have expertise from every corner of the globe, including from national disease and research agencies like the CDC and the NIH in the United States. Second, we need wealthier countries to step up and provide funding to make this a reality. The United States, I believe last paragraph from Bill Gates' promise. I believe the WHO remains our best tool for helping countries stop disease outbreaks, and the Global Health Emergency Corps will represent massive progress toward a pandemic-free future. The question is whether we have the foresight to invest in that future now before it's too late. I don't like Bill Gates. It's I think I've said it on the show before. I don't have direct evidence, but I have circumstantial evidence that the reason that one of my websites, which used to place very prominently in Google News, The reason that it stopped placing prominently in Google News back in 2019 was because I had written an article about Bill Gates's house, and I received a letter from the Gates people, attorneys, saying that I needed to take it down, and of course I did not. And then next thing we know, literally within 3 days, I went from getting tons of traffic from Google to zero. And I look back and I tried to find maybe there's something else I did. Nope, that was it. But I want you to be clear about something. If that hadn't happened, okay, that was a blessing. That was the last good thing, the last positive aspect of my life that happened because of through Bill Gates. It is the only thing in my life that I can attribute positively to Bill Gates. Because if that didn't happen, then maybe I wouldn't be so against big tech. Maybe I would be like a lot of the others out there who are like, oh, we can't lose all of our traffic from Google, so we can't say this. We can't lose all of our money from Google, and we can't lose all of the traffic we get from Facebook. And maybe I would be. Maybe Bill Gates inadvertently made me who I am today, because I don't care what Google thinks. I don't care what Facebook thinks. They could all ban me. YouTube's banned me before, whatever. I don't care anymore. Maybe that makes me better at this kind of stuff, because I can look at this Bill Gates article. I can talk about the World Health Organization, and it doesn't faze me a bit. The bottom line is this, folks. The pandemic treaty, which 3 and 4 weeks ago I covered profusely, 8 hours worth of shows specifically on the pandemic treaty, because I couldn't get other people to talk about it. That's a whole other issue. But it hasn't gone away. It's still there. Bill Gates is still making his push. Joe Biden is still making his push. Meanwhile, we're stuck wondering, I wonder what Michael Cohen's going to say about Trump. I wonder if Trump's going to get arrested. They're playing us for fools, folks. Playing us for fools. It's unfortunate that in America in 2023, we have a hard time finding doctors and pharmacists and pharmaceutical companies that we can trust. I have been able to find one that I trust wholeheartedly based upon the trustworthiness of the doctors and the people involved. It took me a little while to vet them out, but I've finally come to the conclusion that the wellness company is definitely worth it. You can check them out at jdrucker.com/well, jdrucker.com/well. And they don't just sell supplements and stuff like that they do that, but they do more than that. They have services available that can help you, for example, to break free from big pharma's grasp over our lives. They help people to even get away from pharmaceuticals altogether. Where have you ever heard of a medical company that does that? So check them out, the wellness company, at jdrucker.com/well.